Hello and welcome back. It is me again, and today we are talking about Paul of Tarsus, also known as Saul of Tarsus, also known as the Apostle Paul. You see, today we are tackling the beast, and I figure talking about on runs where we tackle the beast, it would make sense to talk about biblical topics. I am a Christian and I do enjoy theology and related fields. So, that's what we're talking about today, and there's not a good musical cue nearby, so oh well. Yay! Hopefully today does not require a second attempt like the past several episodes have. Much to my chagrin. Very much to my chagrin, I will have you know. My chagrin has had so much to it recently. I don't even know what a chagrin even is. I'll take Fate's reward for the moment. Now that I think about it, I could have taken 5 bombs, but eh. This at least gives me a little bit of DPS. This will, unless this episode is a failure, this will... Oh, I want it. I want it. Oh. Not a single bomb. Incredible. Anyway, I'm just saying that today should be the final episode, of Tainted Isaac, and I'll finally be able to carry more than 8 items at a time again. Although it will... the feature of being able to swap, or to rotate between different items will surely be missed. It is a nice feature after all. A very nice feature. That and even the ability just to get rid of unwanted items is also very nice. I don't have a key, which I would like for the alternate path. But I don't have to go down the alternate path like a psycho. There are, however... Not a bomb. 2 hearts laying around, if memory serves, so I can beat myself up a little bit over here. Maybe get a bomb. 3 hearts. Indeed, a bomb has appeared. And 1 more. I feel blessed. Wonderful, thank you. I wish I could feel blessed more. IRL, you know? Sometimes I do. But sometimes life really makes it hard to feel that way, you know? This isn't exactly on topic, but there is something to say about trying to be more thankful in your life for everything that's going on, to be cognizant of your life and everything in it. I'm a fool. I really am a fool. Today, and the past few days even. Oh well, oh swell. Any chance I could get a key from this? Yeah, there is actually a chance. Not a very high one, but yet a chance. I could, of course, also go to the shop. I will accept the health. Because at least the health stays with me. So sad. In fact, allow me to be a little bit more of a fool. No, you can't do this to me! In a rare move, Dude, stop. In a rare move, I will reset this run. Call me a weenie if you want. I have become rather depressed by this. You know, I'll go out the appropriate way. I don't actually know what about that was so appropriate, but I'll go out the appropriate way nonetheless. Ooh. This will be a very healthy run. Well, anyway, welcome to a new run and a new episode, and yeah, we're still talking about Paul. I jest. This isn't how I come up with this isn't how I divide the episodes up, of course. Well, first I jest, and then I just, and then I get a luck down. That figures. Oh, the potato peeler would be nice. Oh well. Look, you only get a luck down once, right? And then you get back up, and you gamble again. And then maybe you lose one more time, but then you gamble again. That's what life is all about, really. This and more life advice every Thursday. I am saying things for the sake of saying things. If you can't tell, I am tired and not very funny. It's a chronic condition. Oh, there we are. No keys whatsoever, just the way I like my Isaac. With optimal levels of despair. Anyway, we will begin discussing Paul shortly. I just want to make sure the run gets off its feet. I should have saved that till next floor. I can still open that chest. That's an idea. It's like gambling. Isn't gambling great? I'm running out of voice box to say things with. Not that I think my voice is going, just that I'm getting tired. Actually, my brain is the most tired thing here. But my voice box is second most, if you can believe it. Certainly feels that way. Get him. Now the question is... Ooh. Health up, fire rate up, range down, luck up, speed down. Okay. I'll deal with that. Yes! I did the correct order of operations, apparently. Now the question is, can I get a trinket like I had last life? So sad. That run ended so early. But you must understand, in the face of such grief, I had to end it. I had to. Don't go down there. Good. Good, me. Good. Let's get into the Apostle Paul now. The Apostle Paul. That might be sacrilegious. Maybe I shouldn't say that. The Apostle Paul. Also known as Saul of Tarsus. There we are. Ooh. Is one of the most influential figures in early Christianity, and even in modern Christianity, although he hasn't been alive for a while. Admittedly. But, you know, he still had some pretty good bangers that people still refer to as, you know, theological works. This episode is going to be all kinds of sacrilegious, and that's saying something, considering I'm a Christian. Paul was a complex and often controversial figure, credited with shaping much of Christian theology, ecclesiology, that is, study of the church and its organization, and missionary practice. And I don't want to find the item room, so we go. Whoa. What we know about Paul is derived from a combination of primary sources. Ow. Okay, time to lock in. Whoa. Should this be a Devil Deal run, now that I think about it? No, 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 no. I do not deal enough damage on my own, do I? I am scared of getting hit. I want this Devil Deal. That helps a lot, but it's not quite enough either. Okay, that wasn't too bad, and we made it. Phew. Speed is okay, fire rate is more important. In this early stage, don't get hit. You know, I'm not gonna turn my back on God just because I felt a little mocked by him earlier in the run. I'm better than that. What we know about Paul is derived from a combination of primary sources that are his letters and the Acts of the Apostles, and secondary interpretations by theologians and historians. That is alright. I'll recover. We will be discussing both the theological and historical sides of understanding who Paul was and what his life was like. That is the goal for today. We are not so much focusing on his theologies. Not so much, anyway. We will mention it, but that's not the point. We're discussing the person himself. I hope you understand. Whoa. Ow. The primary sources on Paul. Starting off with, we have Paul's own letters that specifically we're talking about the undisputed epistles. So if you were not familiar at all with this, a lot of historians and theologians who have analyzed the writings of the New Testament are not fully convinced that all, 13 letters that are said to have been written by Paul were actually written by Paul. At the bare minimum, the number people agree on is that there were at least 7 letters that Paul certainly did write himself. These are the 7 undisputed letters of Paul, and these will serve as our primary source of information on him. These include the letters to the Romans, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, Galatians, Philippians, 1 Thessalonians, and Philemon. Those are the undisputed Pauline letters. Maybe another day we'll get into the why some of his letters are disputed. It is fascinating, I think. Maybe one day. Not today. That was close. I don't want to lose my... Tragic. Well, okay. That works. Oh, I do want the shop, though, first, just in case. Because, you know, it has worked out in my favor. It has paid off before. Thanks for blowing the door open, I guess. Ow. I never get hit by the poop. I feel humiliated. Hold. Okay. F. Bruce in Paul, Apostle of the Heart Set Free from 1977, affirms these as historically reliable insights into Paul's theology and personality. Those 7 Pauline books. Sure, I'll have even more options. Actually, no, that's not this item. This is the regular one. Ha 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 ha. Funny man say funny thing. Sci-Fly, amazing pull. Amazing pull. Ooh, especially for this guy. Get him. Get all of them. Don't do the sideways tears good. That's the one thing I can't really deal with because my range is so pitifully low right now. Yeah, that one. Don't do that. Ow! I did that to myself. Sci-Fly will get him. Wait, that's a second. Oh, I want it. I want the damage. Which is why I'm playing for the long term here. We're going spun, baby. With all the opportunities I have for another syringe item, that's what they're called. Like, wait, go get the fire. Get the fire, dummy. With all the opportunities I have... Wait, no, the fire isn't even over there. Where was it? Over here. It should be relatively easy to get spun. Nice. Trinket! Yay! So, from these 7 Pauline letters, the authentic ones. Again, that isn't to say that the other letters are definitively forgeries or anything, just that they are disputed, although some of them are much more believed to be fake than others. From the 7 authentic Pauline letters... Uh-oh. Okay. These reveal about Paul that Paul's Jewish identity and Pharisaic background heavily influenced his interpretation of Christianity, of the Christian message. But yet, he does not say that Judaism is a necessary part of Christianity either, that it was more or less the precursor, the prequel, if you will. That's broadly speaking. No, that's okay. So yes, Paul was not only a Jew, but a Pharisee on top of that. You know, the same people that kind of killed Jesus. Paul had a dramatic conversion experience recounted by himself in Galatians chapter 1, but Galatians is very short anyway. Also, a very similar, but not identical, story of Paul's conversion is given in the book of Acts. That is, the Acts of Paul and the Apostles, the full title of that book. Can you stop doing that? That's hard to gauge where the tears are, and Sci-Fly isn't great at stopping vertical tears. Sci-Fly. Good. That will give me range. it will also give me Oh, okay. A lot of money. Thank you. I don't recall off the top of my head which chapter of Acts his conversion story takes place in, but just know that, again, it is very similar in a lot of ways, but yet there are a few details that are off, which suggests, from a historical context, at least, that it maybe happened. I mean, it's a miraculous tale, so have your reservations, of course, but yeah, I'll use this now. But if you have multiple accounts of the same thing, even if a lot of the finer details do differ, that's pretty good indication that it wasn't something made up after the fact. At the very least, Paul seems to believe it. There we go. You finally spat at me. Oh, nice. And lastly, in these 7 primary letters, Paul describes his missionary work, his suffering, and his theological reflections. Next, we look at the Acts of the Apostles, the Book of Acts, if you will. And we drop you. Yay. So much money. Can I buy anything with this? I don't think so. Not anything I want. Authored by Luke, Acts presents a narrative of Paul's life, including his conversion on the road to Damascus, given in Acts 9. Oh, that's where it is. That's where his version of the story is. Okay. There we are. Acts also details his missionary journeys, his conflicts with Jewish authorities, and his imprisonment in Rome, ultimately. Well, actually, no, I won't keep Walnut. It's not that great of an item for me, because, if anything, Tainted Isaac as a character needs fewer items. I need more choices of items, but fewer items in total. That way I have less to stress over. Get you... There. Nada. Nothing. Okay, that's fine. This is perfect. Go, 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 go. Fruitcake! I don't have enough time to walk between the two, so I'll just have to deal with that. I'll take fruitcake. And then I will get rid of it first thing. Sorry, fruitcake. You know you deserve it. Richard Purvo. Oh. Sure. Second fly item? Absolutely. Richard Purvo, in The Mystery of Acts, in 2008, argues that Acts is more theological narrative than historical biography. Whoa, hold. Oh. Did I teleport him? Is that what happened? Huh. Is more theological narrative than historical biography, with some idealization of Paul. Ooh. John Knox and Hans Konzelmann also questioned the historic reliability of Acts due to contradictions with Paul's own letters, such as the timeline discrepancies in Galatians versus Acts chapter 15. Nice. More health. I don't know which way I feel like going, but I'm going there. Certainly. No one can deny that. I am almost out of health, though. Out of blue health. Soul hearts. Don't enter the item room, that's not for me. Next, let's look at a biographical sketch of Paul. That man turned into poop. That man turned into gold. Ow. Oh, still more. Cool. What was the purpose of this room? I do want that, though. Give it to me. Yay! Please do not. Cool, okay. The Hermit! Let's go into the Cursed Room! Yay! So, largely, again, coming from these 7 authentic Pauline letters, we get that Paul was born in Tarsus, a Roman city in Cilicia, or Cilicia, I guess if you speak Latin. He was a Roman citizen, even. Yes. Yes. Good. He was a Roman citizen, even. He was educated under Gamaliel, a respected Pharisaic teacher. Of course it's you. No, there is a downside to getting birthright, and that's that I have to wait longer before I can get rid of fruitcake now. But fruitcake does have its advantages, admittedly. Some scholars, like E.P. Sanders in Paul and Palestinian Judaism from 1977, question how much Pharisaic theology really influenced Paul post-conversion. Then we have the conversion story of Paul itself, the story itself, that is, in which Paul claims a radical transformation from being the persecutor of Christians to apostle for Christians. Actually, the apostle for Gentiles, really. I'll take the damage. Yeah, damage. Oh, I still have the walnut on me. Let's get rid of that. Nah, this run would take too long if I went to use the tower on that one room with the golden chest. Paul interprets this radical transformation as being from a revelation of Christ, which he says in Galatians 1:16, and not a conversion in the traditional sense. He didn't simply choose to be Christian. Christ really stopped him on the road to Damascus and said, hey, stop it. Basically. Although, again, the retelling of it varies a little between Paul himself versus what others have said. I forget which version is which, but in one of them, Paul is blinded and his companions are deafened as Christ speaks to him directly and says, Paul, Paul, why have you persecuted me? Although he probably said Saul, Saul, because his name wasn't Paul yet. Yay! Also, his name change isn't necessarily a sign of his conversion either. It might just be a regional name difference. Sorry. Paul and Saul were equivalent names. One being Aramaic and the other being Greek, if I'm not mistaken. With Paul being Aramaic and Saul being Greek. No, other way around. I literally just got that backwards. So he changed his name in order to basically just better fit in with the Gentiles, not because of... Not necessarily because of the conversion itself, although it does make for a beautiful metaphor, I guess. I don't have any evil items, but thanks. Nice. Ooh. Fruitcake has done more to me than I'd like to admit. I saw that smack. That doesn't mean I like fruitcake, though, to be clear. Not even in real life. Do I use it now? Oh, broken modem. I don't know. I don't know. Let's go see if we can't find the secret room. No, I'll continue. I need to find the other buttons if I want the knife, which I guess I do. Yeah, I do. I guess. Smack. Nothing? No more buttons yet? Okay, well this is very reckless, but I might be able to get something out of it. I got the devil. Hello, the devil. Ow. I see you. Bye-bye. Oh, I have a 100% chance of Angel Room. Good. Finally. Anyway, last thing I said was that, yes, in some versions, one of the versions of Paul's conversion, again, not a conversion in the traditional sense at all, but still, Paul is blinded and the others are deafened as Christ speaks directly to Paul and attacks his life points directly. But in the other version, given in Acts, I want to say it's the reverse, where Paul is deafened and his companions are blinded, and somehow Christ speaks to Paul directly. One of those. But otherwise, similar conversion stories, although the later timeline of Paul is fairly different by years, comparing Paul's own accounts of things versus the account given in Acts. Krister Stendahl in Paul Among Jews and Gentiles from 1976 argues Paul's experience was not about guilt and forgiveness, but a call to a Gentile mission. Yes. I mean, yes. I think that's fairly obvious from what Paul writes as well, but I don't know, I guess it's nice to just have someone who wrote a book also say that. Now let's briefly go over Paul's theology. Again, today is not meant to be a day about theology in total, but it is worth mentioning his beliefs, since we're talking about the guy, you know? First thing in Pauline theology is justification by faith. Hi, Mom. Oh. I didn't get hurt by you. Neat. That was close. So this is central to Paul's thought, especially in Romans and Galatians. This theology emphasizes that righteousness comes not through the works of the law, that is not through good works, that is not through being a good person. Excuse me, my eye is itchy. But instead, righteousness comes through faith in Jesus Christ and faith alone. I itch. I itch! Oh yeah, I'm a tainted character, finally. That means I can take an item into the beast fight, finally. I said finally twice in that sentence. That's okay. Man, my eye itches. Ugh, excuse me. Ugh. Okay, I'll power through. We'll get through this. Nice. No needle item. But Mr. Dolly. The soul is great. Maybe I should have picked that up afterwards. Oh well. Just so, in case I, lose some soul hearts here. Uh-huh, nice, nice. Oh, my eye itches again! Okay, we go. Martin Luther heavily emphasized this reading, fueling the Protestant Reformation. Oh, I forgot to get rid of my lipstick. Oh well. Nice, and that's why I take the knife. I guess. Not terrible. Get out here so I can kill the skeleton. There we are. Oh, I could have squished him. I guess I'll keep using this item, the whatever, prayer card. It's fine. James D.G. Dunn and N.T. Wright, key figures in the New Perspective on Paul, argue that Paul was not opposing Judaism as legalistic. Ooh. And that works of the law refer to ethnic boundary markers, such as circumcision and dietary laws, not moral effort. If I can try to interpret that myself, please forgive me if I am wrong about this. But the New Perspective on Paul here basically says that Paul's... how do I put this? His controversies involving some of his contemporaries, some of his contemporary teachers, namely, in a few points in the New Testament, there seem to be factions of Jews who insist that Christians must follow Jewish dietary laws and circumcision, namely. And Paul repeatedly argues that it is unnecessary. So the argument here is, I mean, if you ask me, and I think if you ask most people who are familiar with this anyway. Oh, I should have left the devil! Oh. I'll leave you here, sweet prince. Why did I get two? Cool. Shop. Yay! More than just a shop. A home! I think if you ask most people who are familiar with Paul's works, they would say that the reason why Paul is arguing for a lot of this stuff that he does argue for a third one, wow. The reason why he argues... Nice. Against... Oh. Which one? You, I think. Well, yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't even remove any of my stats. Anyway, what was I even saying? The reason why Paul believes that Gentiles, that is, people who are non-Jews ethnically, should not be subject to circumcision or other dietary laws, the main reason suggested by Paul in his works, or implied, not suggested, seems to be that Paul views it as simply no longer necessary. You had the Old Covenant and the New Covenant, and that is it. Things passed from one to the other, and I will take you. Wait, what? You count as a passive? Oh. Well. I'll keep fruitcake for now. That's some good damage. Why am I fighting you? You don't do anything for me. Oh, but I did get a black heart out of it. Neat. I should have entered. Let me go get strength again. My broader point here was that from the New Testament, Paul seems to suggest that Judaism is basically just the old way, but this new perspective on Paul, which I'm not sure, I guess it's not a book, written by James D.G. Dunn and N.T. Wright, suggests that Paul is just saying that Gentiles need not be ethnically Jewish, or need not mimic ethnic Judaism. I guess. Next, let's focus on Christology. I wondered what that could mean. It could mean anything. It could mean you. It could mean me. It could even mean... So, Paul believes in high Christology, at least that's what we call it today. That is the belief that Jesus is pre-existent, divine, yet still crucified. Paul refers to Jesus as Lord, that is Kyrios, a title used for Yahweh in Judaism. Oh. Ah, I didn't get him. That was close. Oh, come on. Oh, I teleported a guy. That's what happened. And again. Thank you, but no thank you, fruitcake. It sounds like some sort of rude nickname for someone. Okay, fruitcake. Anyway, happy Pride Month. There we are. Whoa! I don't want that. I don't need it either, but I don't want it. Nice. Okay. Cool. Larry Hurtado in Lord Jesus Christ from 2003 emphasizes that early Christian devotion to Jesus as was unique in Second Temple Judaism. Yes. Oh. Oh. Well, if you give me Seraphim, I'm not sure that you will. I don't think you're really worth it either. I want speed more. Next, we have eschatology, that is, beliefs concerning the end times. Oh, I accidentally went the right way. I hate when that happens. Paul expected an imminent return of Christ, such as in 1 Thessalonians 4:13 through 18. Later letters suggest a more delayed eschatology, that is, Philemon 1:23 through 24. This shift leads to debates about whether Paul's theology evolved or if different letters reflect different authors. For some reason, I thought I hadn't been to that room. Fairly boring room. Aha. Technology. We have the technology. And in fact, no! I was too fast. Oh well. It's fine. Let's break you. Give me a nice pill or two. Oh! Yay! That's perfect. No. Oh, I had the shot all lined up and everything. No! Of course it is. I can never have nice things. Get the coin. I'm too small. And I probably should have, you know, dropped more trinkets off in rooms. I mean, all that really does for me is it gives me inner child, you know? It's not that important. The devil is honestly a better item to take into the beast fight. Yeah. Yeah, I'll go with this. I think. Maybe. For now. I don't know. I have time to change my mind still, you know? Nice. Yeah, I'll do it. Alright, moving on from his theology, let's next focus on Paul's... Ooh. Ow. That too. Hagalaz. Why can't you give me the thing that I want? I will take more bombs, I guess. Let's focus on Paul's mission and church planting. Paul established churches across the Eastern Mediterranean through Corinth, Galatia, Ephesus, Philippi, Thessalonica, etc. Etc. is not the name of one of those churches, or cities, or regions. He took a Gentile-inclusive stance, opposing circumcision and Torah observance for converts. Let's take you. Wayne Meeks, in The First Urban Christians from 1983, provides socio-historic insight into Paul's urban mission strategy and the social makeup of his communities. Now, let's do a brief little moment to focus on Paul's disputed letters. My precious. Oh, I can get rid of you. Duh. Is it? How much worth it is it? It's pretty worth it, yeah. Okay. So many scholars debate whether Paul wrote Ephesians, because the ecclesiology seems too developed. That is, the church structure seems a little too advanced, considering Paul was like one of the first people to create churches. Colossians, due to a difference in vocabulary and style. 2nd Thessalonians, due to shifted eschatology. And 1st and 2nd Timothy and Titus, all three of which are pastoral epistles, that is, meant to pastor one individual. Timothy and Titus, so two individuals to be technical about it, but they differ in tone, structure, and, again, church organization, compared to Paul's 7 authentic letters. Squish! Bart Ehrman and Raymond E. Brown consider the pastoral epistles pseudonymous, written by later followers in Paul's name. Again, we can certainly take another episode to go more in depth about that later, but basically, impersonation was really common in the ancient world, and at times was even considered virtuous, which is not something the modern mind can really comprehend. Well, for the most part. Yeah, maybe I'll take that back a little bit. Maybe it is very strange to the modern mind, but not impossible to understand. Imagine if someone in the modern age said that they were Shakespeare. Am I gonna get the poop transformation? I might. If someone writing today claimed to be Shakespeare, we would obviously know that they weren't, but perhaps we could really appreciate the works that they produce if they're of high quality and very similar to Shakespeare's style. You know, I'll do another. However, if someone was writing, say, 100 years from now, they would probably be pretty upset that someone is impersonating Shakespeare and seems to have a good mastery of Shakespeare's style as well. They might not be able to tell as clearly as we can that this is a dedication rather than a malicious impersonation. And hi again. How's it going? Actually, Epiphora would be really nice. But, you know, fruitcake, it's growing on me. Fruitcake is growing on me, so I'll continue with it for now. This really does help me with a fruitcake build. Having Cricket's body. All the more tears to have random effects. Yeah, I'll continue with the devil. My final opinion. Oh, I did have a second one, that's right. Poop. Now, can I please... Downpour 2, can I please get a syringe item? I only need one more, and I don't even need to keep it. Book. Book. Let's see, other authors like Luke Timothy Johnson defend Pauline authorship on stylistic and theological grounds of some of his more controversial letters. Controversial not in the sense that they're on controversial topics, but just in the similar sense that it's not universally believed that they may be written by Paul. I, personally, at the very least, do not believe that 2 Timothy was written by Paul. That one is a step too far. Not only does the more modern church structure that is mentioning bishops irk me. Huh? Did I pick that up earlier? Did I enter that item room on the way down and just not realize it? Maybe. Mayhaps. Anyway, yeah, in 2 Timothy, Paul refers to the office of bishop, and it's like, what do you mean office of bishop? Could Paul or someone else have invented the office of bishop very early on to the church's history? Perhaps. Perhaps. It's not likely, but perhaps. But more than that, the main reason I don't like 2 Timothy is because of Paul's argument against women, kind of. How Paul says women should never teach, because Eve was deceived first. Sure, Paul. Sure. So again, it... Ooh, okay. Well, it's not a syringe item. But... the range no longer matters. No matter longers, even. If I pick you up now, you can get rid of the Book of Virtues. You don't give me anything. Oh, okay. Cool. Get him! Okay, now Cricket's body isn't really doing much for me, I think. Let me pay closer attention to this. Yeah, it's not really doing much. Aside from giving me, you know, a higher fire rate still. I'll just move on. Cool. Controversies and areas of debate. So, Paul and women. Oh, crazy. Hey! That's neat. So, Paul, across his many letters, praises female co-workers such as Phoebe, Junia, and Priscilla, yet in some letters, such as 1 Timothy, he restricts women's roles. Most scholars view the restrictive texts as non-Pauline or contextual, especially since Junia is called an apostle in Romans chapter 16, verse 7. Next, we have Paul and Judaism. I'll use you. Go get him. The traditional view is that Paul rejects Judaism. I can barely see myself. But the new perspective is that Paul remained a Jew but reinterpreted the covenant in the light of Christ. E.P. Sanders argues Paul's issue wasn't with Jewish law per se, but its exclusivity. Critics like Douglas Moo push back, arguing that the new perspective underplays Paul's theological break from Judaism. Okay, now give me the syringe mom item, which definitely exists. No! Cool. Oh, I didn't even charge my guy. Oh, tragedy. Oh, well, this should be easy. Get him, fruitcake. Big fetus. Big boy. My soul. What a weirdo. Next, we have Paul and the historical Jesus. Paul rarely ever cites Jesus' sayings. Instead, Paul focuses on Jesus' death and resurrection as seemingly being far more important, which even Jesus, with his own sayings, does focus a lot on his death and resurrection as well. But yet that's not like it's the only thing he ever says, And yet I can only think of one time off the top of my head that Paul actually cites Jesus directly. Even then, it's not like Paul had the Gospels to read. So whatever his citations of Jesus may have been, they were likely hearsay, because he also wasn't really around Jesus at the time when Jesus was ministering. I mean, he was alive, he was just a Pharisee who, went on to persecute Christians, Whoa! Okay. There's a punching baby over there. There we are. Get him, body. David Wenham and Richard Bauckham argue Paul knew Jesus' traditions but focused on post-resurrection significance. Are you dead yet? Okay. Next, let's look at the death and legacy of Paul. Paul was likely martyred in Rome under Nero between 64 to 67 CE. Tradition holds he was beheaded being a Roman citizen. Jeremy and Eusebius mention this, but no contemporaneous Roman records actually confirm it. Second body, and it's full-sized. That's interesting. Paul's letters became foundational to Christian doctrine, second only to the Gospels in influence. Well, it's a shame I couldn't get one more charge on this, but that's alright. The final thing to say is to direct you towards more information. Well, I mean, I could summarize things too first, I guess. No, I won't. Sorry. Yeah, final thing I'll do is point you towards more information about this topic, or similar topics. So, F.F. Bruce is a wonderful scholar. I'm just gonna say all these scholars are wonderful, even if I haven't read much of them directly. So, yeah, take that with a grain of salt here, but F.F. Bruce argues for the conservative, evangelical, and historical defense of Acts and Paul's letters. That was a very awkward way of saying that sentence, but I hope you understand. E.P. Sanders. Oh, okay. Glitched crown, and with that we're done with Dated Isaac. E.P. Sanders argues for the new perspective on Paul, saying that Judaism is saying that to Paul, Judaism is as a conventional nomism. That's not the right word at all. I'm so tired right now. I apologize sincerely. Judaism as covenantal nomism. Okay. N.T. Wright provides the continuation of the new perspective and defends Paul's Judaism. James D.G. Dunn is responsible for the phrase, the new perspective on Paul, but also, like a lot of these individuals, I mentioned their works earlier throughout today. Bart Ehrman is critical and skeptical of the traditional authorship of much of Paul's letters, and Krister Stendahl writes that Paul and the introspective conscience writes on Paul and the Introspective Conscience of the West. And lastly, Wayne Meeks writes about the social historical analysis of Paul's churches. So there you go. Info on the Apostle Paul. The last thing that I am going to say, because it wasn't mentioned here, is what did Paul actually look like? Well, the legend of Paul, I guess if you call it that, because it's not in any of the Bible, not in any of the books of the Bible, says that Paul was not very pleasant looking to the eyes. He was a little on the short side with a hunched back and was bald and bearded, I think. Not very charismatic in person. That does come from his letters, but very logically persuasive while away, while writing to people through letters. And he may have had an eye condition. Actually, he definitely had an eye condition. The question is, was it chronic after it was miraculously healed? Anyway, that will do it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something about the Apostle Paul today, or maybe the Bible in general, and I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take the care.